My husband left our kids alone and refuses to admit it. What should I do? My husband is 43, and I am 31. We've been married for 7 years and have 2 kids, a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old. This past weekend, something happened that I just can't shake. I'm part of the board of directors for a local nonprofit, and I had an event to attend on Saturday. I was gone for most of the day, and my husband was supposed to be home with the kids. I texted him a few times, and he replied as usual. Around midday, I tried calling, but he didn't pick up. That's not super unusual, so I didn't worry at first. Then my mom called. She told me my son had just called her from his tablet. She asked him what he and his sister were doing, and he casually said they were watching TV. When she asked where their dad was, he said, "He's not here." My mom started asking more questions, and from the way my son answered, she believed he was telling the truth. He wasn't scared or upset, just casually chatting with his grandma, not realizing that something was wrong. The second I hung up with my mom, I felt this wave of panic. I left the event immediately and started calling and texting my husband over and over. No response. Finally, after about 10 minutes, he answered. I asked him where he was, and he said, "I'm at home." I told him our son had just said he was home alone with his baby sister. My husband denied it right away, insisting he'd been there the whole time. I was too upset to argue over the phone, so I hung up and drove home as fast as I could. When I got home, I went straight to the kids. They were fine, thankfully. Then I turned to my husband and asked him again, "Where were you?" He stuck to his story. He claimed he'd been home the whole time, just down in the basement doing laundry. But when I went down to check, it was the same load of laundry I'd put in the dryer the night before. Nothing had been touched. I confronted him again, asking, "Why would our son say you weren't home if you were? Where could you have been in this house that he couldn't find you?" His answers didn't make any sense. He kept brushing me off, saying our son must have been confused. But that doesn't add up. A 5-year-old knows if their dad is home or not. Plus, my mom had asked my son to check different parts of the house, and he still couldn't find him. I begged my husband to tell me the truth. I told him how maddening it was to be lied to like this. But he kept insisting he was home, acting like I was crazy for even questioning him. Every time I said, "You left our kids alone," he'd quickly say, "No, I didn't," and then try to change the subject. He said I was overreacting, letting my imagination run wild. I know he left them alone. We don't have security cameras, but I'm seriously tempted to ask our neighbor if I can check their doorbell footage. Later that night, I was so overwhelmed I had to go sit in my car and cry. I didn't want the kids to see me like that. I felt furious, heartbroken, and completely lost. After things calmed down a little, I talked to my best friend about what happened. I needed someone to help me make sense of it because I felt like I was losing my mind. Here's what she told me: "Look, it's either something shady, something careless, or both. None of those are good. The fact that he won't tell you where he was or even admit he was gone is a huge red flag. Think about it logically. If he really was home, why didn't he hear your son talking to his grandma on the phone? Why didn't he answer your calls when you kept trying to reach him? Why couldn't your son find him anywhere in the house when your mom asked him to check? Even if he was home, that's not okay. In what world is that considered responsible parenting?" And here's the part that really hit me, she said, "Your son didn't seem scared. That probably means this wasn't the first time he's been left alone. He knew what to do. He just called your mom like it was no big deal." That's terrifying because you don't know how many times this has happened. What if there'd been an emergency? A fire? What if the baby had started choking? She told me I needed to stop relying on my husband's word because he's already shown he can't be trusted. She said, "Get security cameras. Not just for peace of mind, but for proof. If he does this again, you'll have evidence. And honestly, you might want to check his phone. Look for anything unusual, texts, photos, hidden apps, bank transactions. If he's hiding something, it'll show up somewhere. Finally, she said something that really stuck with me: your number one job is to protect your kids. If he's not going to be responsible, you have to be. This isn't about your marriage right now, it's about their safety. And if he keeps lying, you need to think about whether you can trust him as a parent. Maybe even talk to a lawyer, just to be prepared. Her words hit me hard, but she's right. I don't know what's going on with my husband. But I do know one thing: I can't ignore this. I have to protect my kids, even if it means facing some hard truths about the man I married. Have you ever been in a situation like this? What would you do? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this kind of content and want to hear more real-life stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support means so much to me. Thank you.